Hey guys, and how's it going? Back to the old tailgate of the truck. Thought we'd have a little meeting today about how that painting contractors and also building contractors are leaving the state of California. And I want to talk to you guys about this because it's happening very quickly. It's been happening a lot since about 2015. And it started when the state of California decided that $10 an hour was just too little money for someone to live, so they started raising minimum wage. Well, when they started doing that, it started putting dents in the painters industry, and people go, well, it helps the people that are poor. Honestly, if you really look into it, it doesn't help them at all. In fact, everything goes up in price as soon as they raise minimum wage. Even I've talked to several people that are on minimum wage that were against them doing that, and because they were like, all it's going to do is make everything cost more, and it doesn't help us at all. So, but who it does help is it helps the California government, and the California government, of course, gets more payroll tax money to get a percentage of. So they get percentage of that money that they get from the payroll. So if they have a higher payroll for the whole state, right, then they make more money. That's just how it works, and that's what they were after. So they were saying, oh, look, we're helping the poor, and they get the one lady that goes on TV, and she's like jumping up and down, yay, I can take my kids to Disneyland now because $20 an hour minimum wage, I can actually afford to go. And next day, Disneyland goes up in price. So now you still can't take your kid to Disneyland, and everything you buy at the store costs more money. So really, it didn't do anything but make you more poor. And the other thing that it does is it takes money out of the middle class. So everything goes up in price. The guy in the middle that makes above minimum wage didn't get a raise. So everything he buys costs more money. So basically, he gets a pay cut. If you make more than the minimum wage and minimum wage goes up, it definitely hurts the middle class the most. So this was affecting contractors. A lot of people, we may not agree with this, but it really does, because what happens is now, this coming year, minimum wage is going to be $20 an hour for fast food restaurants. And what do you think they're going to do? I mean, so let's say you're a painter, and now the fast food guy walks out of high school, doesn't know a damn thing about anything, goes to a burger joint, and he can stick his hand out and say, where's my $20 an hour? What do you think the other guys are going to do for the other trades? They're going to be like, oh, he's going to make $20 an hour. He doesn't know anything. And I'm only making 25. Well, I should be making 30. I should be making 40. See, everything goes up in price. This is how it works. It doesn't help the poor at all. And so this sort of thing's been happening, and California has just been doing things wrong. So a lot of guys are leaving the state. So that's been happening. Another thing that's happening is insurance rates for business and bonds. I went to go renew my bond, my contractor's license bond, and I got a notice in the mail, and it said, oh yeah, you can renew, just, click on the IRQ code. So I went on there and I paid it, and I was like, okay, well, and I started looking, and I didn't get an email from him. I was like, what's going on here? And so the transaction was canceled. Well, lo and behold, they sent me the notice prior to the fact that they stopped doing contractor license bonds in California. So at the last minute, I'm scrambling, looking all over the place, trying to find a bond. Everybody wanted twice the rate that the other, double. They were double the rate. I finally found a place in South Carolina, or North Carolina, South Carolina, that does the bonds for a little bit more than my other one, but not as high as the others. So I was able to renew. But man, I'm telling you, it was still really expensive. So you're adding, those costs are going up extremely. Now the other thing is you go to a guy's house and you go, hey man, he goes, oh, how much to paint my house? And you're like, $11,000. And they just look at you like, what? Last time it was like $3,500. Yeah, it's $11,000 now. And they just go, well, you're ripping me off. And then they look around, and the ones that have the money, they call you back a few days later and they're like, That really wasn't, yeah, I told you, it's 11 grand now. So, people don't have that kind of money to paint their house. Okay. And so a lot of guys are going out of the state because the other thing, they've raised paint chemicals. California has this bright idea to just, make those companies pay. Vista Paint, you will pay. We're going to, they even did something like fined GM for taxes. They want money from taxes for GM. They doesn't even do business in San Francisco. They want money from them. I'm just trying to say they're doing anything that they're grasping at straws for money. And so guys are just tired of it and they're just leaving. Contractors, listen, I'm not going to speak for everybody because I don't really know where you stand politically, but listen, I'd say most people who are in the trades are not Democrats. Okay, they're mostly Republicans. Even if they're not a right-wing Republican, they're somewhat Republican. They're not going to vote Democrat, and that's typical. Now, maybe you're not, but that's okay. You can always comment that below. But most are, and they have not. This state hasn't been doing anything favorable for them, so they're just like, hey, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm just done with this. I'll go somewhere where they care about everyone, where they care about the Democrats and they care about the Republicans, not this crazy super leftist craziness that they have in California, because that's really what's happening. This has been happening year after year after year since Jerry Brown took over. And yeah, you guys might like me talking about this stuff, but it's just the way it is. It is California. It is the way things are here. And, there's just tons of people leaving. There's all different kinds of people leaving, but it's mostly the Republicans, contractors, because they can't do business here anymore. The prices of the materials are even higher. I was out of town. Next week I'm going to St. Louis. I work a lot all over the place, okay? And because they need me, they just don't want to deal with anybody over there, so they send me out to do it. So I went to go buy some paint in the Midwest, and it was $5 a gallon less. And I didn't even have a really good salesman out there or anything. I went into the paint store and I negotiated with them a little bit, and they gave me the paint for about $5 less a gallon than what it is here. So I know that materials are quite a bit less everywhere else. Probably because two things: the labor cost is less. The chemicals don't have huge taxes on them like they do here. They don't have paint recycling fees like we have here. They have a paint recycling fee that you don't see until you go buy a gallon of paint. You don't even know it's there until you get to the paint store. Then you go to buy it. Right when you go to pay, you're like, wait, what's that, 75 cents a gallon? Oh, that's recycle fee. So they have those type of things. They have environmental fees on just about every place you go for everything. They have lumber taxes on lumber here. You go to buy lumber. You don't know this until you go buy it. You go buy a stick of lumber. Look on the bill at Home Depot, and you'll see lumber tax, whatever it is, 7 cents or whatever. But it adds up to a huge number. And so they're really making those people, let's make those companies pay. Well, who ends up paying that? Who ends up paying that, you guys? Do you think it's the company? Do you think Vista Paint pays? All they do is they go, well, it was $20 a gallon, now it's $25. So the consumer is the one who pays for all this stuff. You're not getting away with anything. You're not going to make a company pay. It just doesn't work that way. So it's just this whole mentality of free rides and trying to get people, to, I don't know, there's just been this major leftist political push. And listen, I'm not a right-wing person. I'm kind of a middle right, okay? So I'm not trying to get rid of abortion and all that other crap, whatever. I'm not into that stuff. But this is what's happening because they use these things. They go, well, they're going to get rid of abortion if you get rid of, it's like, not all Republicans are like that. Okay, Texas, okay, yeah, I get it. But California, they need a middle ground, and that's not happening. So people are leaving. They're leaving the state, and it's mostly Republican contractors that are leaving. And what's going to be left? How are you going to survive with $20 an hour minimum wage to fast food? When fast food's $25 an hour, $20 an hour, your minimum wage for a painter is going to be $30. That's just going to be it. And can you sustain paying somebody $30 an hour? Honestly, I couldn't for most guys. I could not take most painters and say, hey, you're worth $30 an hour. Most of them aren't. They can't produce enough to be paid $30 an hour. Okay, so like the guys I have, they do their own stuff and they just help me when I need help. Most of the time, what do? This is what everybody's going to be doing here. They work by themselves. They just go out and do stuff by themselves. They don't have anybody. Like I'm flying to out of state. I'm going by myself. I don't have anybody to help me. I'm going to go do it. Just got to do what I got to do. And, that's what's going to happen here if we don't have changes. This is all going to turn into really ugly stuff over time. It's going to be pretty soon. It won't be long from now. There's also other things in this. They've added these things like Title 24. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Title 24 in California is energy efficient roofs, energy efficient air conditioning. It's a whole big energy efficiency program, and solar panels on every home and all this stuff. And what they don't think about is that that's pricing people out of the real estate market. So let's say you go to buy a house. A house is about $100,000 more in building costs. I'm not talking about the real estate and buying the land and all the other stuff. Just in building the home is almost $100,000 more than in another state. So another reason, I know several builders who have left. I was talking to a friend of mine, and his brother works for one of the major builders. Can't say who it is, but one of the major builders. They were losing $80,000 a house on their last tract. So if they're losing $80,000 a home, they said to their employees, hey, if you guys want to come with us, we're going to still continue to build in these other states. But California, we're closing it. We're closing up our construction division in California. We're moving it to whatever states they were still working in, maybe Utah, Colorado. Not Colorado. They're not doing that either. They're Utah or some of the other states that are favorable to builders. And they're going to those states, and they're still continuing to build there. Texas, I think, is one of them, but I don't remember all the states they are in. But it's a large builder, and they were losing $80,000 a home. If that's happening to one of them, what do you think's happened to the others? And see, the thing is now when real estate loans have become normalized at normalized rates, people go, oh, these are really high rates. I'm like, no, these are normal rates. A 7% mortgage or 7.5% mortgage, 8% mortgage is a normal rate. A 2% mortgage is an abnormally low rate. A 4% low rate is a very low rate. Over my lifetime, average has been over 8. They had 18%. Now that's a high rate back in the early 80s. You might say, oh, that'll never happen again. No, stuff like this happens. It cycles. It's constantly going around. It's going to cycle around and happen again. But, when you add in that nobody can qualify, or very few people can qualify for a home, and now you start to have inventories start to go up, which we're going to see this year. We're going to see inventories on homes for sale start to go up, and very few people are going to be able to qualify to buy one, because you have to make so much income to be able to do it. It's not just affordability, it's qualifying income. If they can't qualify for that loan, nobody's going to buy it. What's going to happen to real estate? It's going to go down in value. All these things affect the painting trade, okay? They all affect the contracting trade. It all ends up being bad for us in the long run. So a lot of them have foreseen this happening and have left now. And there's going to be more leaving soon. So anyway, if you're wondering what's going on in the trades industry, that's what's happening. And, and all I can say is, listen, if you're on the other side in the voting, you might want to take a really close look at what you're doing and maybe consider looking at the other side, looking for somebody who's got the right values, who's conservative minded with the finances. because somebody who's just this crazy, you know, I need more money and tap the people for it, you know, if this keeps happening, this state's gone. It'll end up being destroyed eventually. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Hopefully this helps you. Please like, share, and subscribe.